So I'm Cynthia Becker. I'm the host of the reality series CPS The Horror Stories. I'm not an attorney, I'm not a social worker, but I am a mom who lost her kids to CPS for 2 years. And after fighting for the 2 years, I did get them back. My job with doing this show is just to reveal the truth about the corruption and devastation and trauma that CPS causes family and kids. And one thing that I tell people is, be wise, be educated, know your rights, and don't talk to CPS. So,
Right.
Jackie,
Yes.
you want to introduce yourself? Tell me where you're from, what you do, and then we can start with your story.
Yeah. My name is Jacqueline, and I'm from Redding, California. And I'm a mom who had her kids kidnapped from CPS. I did not get my kids back. And my job, what I've tried to do through this is just like you said, I try to bring awareness. I call it being woke to the fact that this can happen to anybody.
Yes.
Nobody is safe from CPS. I don't care how much money you have, who you're related to, what kind of power you think that you have, or anybody else. They hold an insane amount of power.
Yes.
And if you fall victim to them, you are powerless. And I try to bring awareness to people, like I said, that this can happen to anyone.
Sure can. Absolutely. So, were you in the system as a child?
No, never.
Me
No,
either. I
no.
just
I
I
come from
asked
an
because a
amazing
lot of
family.
people who their kids are removed, they were in the system as a
Yeah,
child.
I saw that trend also, like going through classes and stuff. But no, I came from a really good family. Um, I was very blessed. I didn't even really know what CPS was. I mean, I knew that they existed, but nobody that I had known, none of my family or friends or anybody had ever dealt with them. To be quite honest, and this sounds probably kind of naive, but really only CPS that I knew about was from like Law and Order, like
Right.
on TV, like seeing stuff like that until they were knocking at my door and removed my children. That was September 12th, 2013. It was a Thursday. And we fought. I mean, we spent so much money on attorneys and we fought. Back then, I'd say people definitely tried to bring awareness to me that had like gone through this, that were in like classes and stuff that I was in. And I just thought they were crazy. I thought they were, on drugs and delusional and hey, just work your plan and you'll get your kids back. And I realize now that they were actually trying to bring awareness to me that I was in a really scary situation with the fact that um, my children were not born to a drug addicted mother. They were not beaten, molested, or neglected. They had never been exposed to drugs or anything like that. They didn't have mental, physical handicaps. They didn't come from long lines of disease and illness. They're beautiful, healthy boys. And I know now that they were worth a lot of money. And so my kids didn't come home because they went to the highest bidder, which did end up being some gay guys in San Francisco. And my two oldest boys, my children were court ordered to not be split up. And then really quick, when my children were taken, my oldest child was 4, my middle child was 2.5, and my baby boy was 9 weeks old. They literally removed him from my breast in my living room. So they court ordered my boys to stay together. They ended up splitting my um, baby boy up from the 2 older boys. And I just found out 3 weeks ago that the lady who adopted him decided she didn't want him anymore. And she gave him back to the state of California. And he's now in a group home somewhere in Southern California. And I can't even find out where he's at.
How old are they now?
My oldest son just turned 11 on the 17th. My middle son is 9, and my baby boy turned 7 in May. And it's just been really hard. Like, they really toyed with us. They made my brother think that he was going to get them. He had a really good job. He went and got a home that was a bigger house. He got a bigger car. He furnished the whole house with bunk beds and toys and clothes and dressers and basketball hoops and everything, and took all these classes, and they made him they approved his house, everything. And then my dad and my brother went to go to a visit with the boys. They hadn't seen him in a few months, and they showed up for the visit, and the boys weren't there, and it was a CPS panel. And that's when they told my dad and my brother that there would be no visit, and that they were adopting them out to some gay men in San Francisco. I haven't seen my kids since June 6, 2015, and I haven't even heard their voices since August 7, 2015. And I really want to make a valid point here, and that is that if somebody does something that is so bad that their children cannot ever see them again, talk to them, nothing, that person better be in jail.
I agree.
They had to have done something so horrible. Why am I not in jail? I've never been to jail. I've had one speeding ticket in my entire life. I'm almost 40 years old. The most trouble I've ever been in is one speeding ticket. But my kids can never see me again or even talk to me? Where's my charges? Really? That don't even make sense. You can never see your kids, talk to them again. That person had better be in jail, because that means the only reason that you should be separated from your children is if you did something so horrible. And if you did, your ass better be locked up. Never been in trouble in my life. Never charged with nothing.
So let's go back to the beginning.
Kids. Okay.
Why did CPS show up in your life?
My kid's dad at the time was on the run for theft of a motor vehicle, and we live in Northern California, and at the time we had a marijuana garden, and he was waiting out till it was done, harvested, and then he was going to turn himself in. So he wasn't staying at the house. He would just come to water. And then they came one day looking for him, and I didn't know where he was at. I told him, I don't want to know where you're at, because if they do come looking, I don't want to be lying. I will never, it's like the biggest mistake I made, because they came looking for him, and I couldn't find him. He didn't have a phone at the time. I was calling everybody that I knew to try to get a hold of him, because I knew that they're threatening our kids. They're saying I'm harboring a dangerous wanted criminal, theft of a motor vehicle, and that this is neglect and blah 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 blah. And I know that if I could have got a hold of him, he'd said, okay, do they want to come get me? They want me to come to them? What's it going to be? And I couldn't get a hold of them, and they took my kids. And then they said that I didn't have a proper locking gate on my marijuana garden, which I had childproof locks on my doors that my kids couldn't even get out of the house. That was it. They took them, and I didn't get them back. I went and I did their parenting class and their discovery group, and then I had gotten upset at the visitation coordinator lady, because I had supervised visits at a place here in town, and my son was telling me that his bottom hurt, and this is alarming as a mother. And so I was allowed to take my children to the bathroom, so I took him to the bathroom, and I was able to get a look at him without him knowing, because I didn't want that to turn into something else. And I noticed that he was swollen around his rectum. So after I finished my visit and after the kids left, I asked to speak to Kathleen, the manager, and I told her that this was going on and that something needed to be done. They needed to look into it. And she basically brushed me off, and I became upset, as any mother would. And when that happened, they reported it back to the courts that, Miss Turner was upset and yelling and raising her voice and using profanity in the office and blah, blah, blah. And they ended up doing their little investigation, said everything was fine. Come to find out 2 years later, my little boy had been being molested by a 15-year-old boy in the home. So then after this, because I got upset, I had to take anger management. So I took anger management. By the way, all of my classes, I graduated like with awards and perfect attendance and reference letters from people that were like highly impressed by my participation and taking the time to make sure others in the group understood and were educated, because it was important to me. And so I took their anger management, and then they said, we want you to see a psychiatrist. So I go and see a psychiatrist, and my attorney said, okay, she'll see one, but not one of yours. So we found a psychiatrist that would take my insurance. I went and saw him. I had to take 3 different, like 500 and 600 question tests that were just bizarre.
Yep,
And
I did too.
at the end of that, because like I walked into his office and he was like, hi, I'm Dr. So-and-so. I'm like, hi, how you doing? He walks me into this room, which there was just a table full of chairs
Yep.
and a thing of paper and pencil. And he said, let me know when you're done,
Yep.
and walked out. So I thought it was like the intake registration.
No, it takes like hours.
Yeah. And it's a test. Okay. So I take the test, let him know I'm done. He says, okay, I'll call you, come back next week. Okay. So I come back the next week thinking we're going to talk or something. No, same thing. Let me know when you're done. Take another question, 600 question test. This happens 3 times. Then the 4th time I went, we go into a different office. This is where it's like the psychiatric office that you would typically see. And he says, make yourself comfortable, whatever. And then the first thing he says to me is, well, you're not the crazy person that CPS wants me to say that you are. He says, there's only 2 ways to pass this test. 1, you're telling the truth. 2, you're an extreme genius. He said, Ms. Turner, I think that you're very smart, but you're not a genius. And you pass this test just fine. So he said, I do think that you are suffering.
You cannot manipulate that test.
Right.
I have to do it as well.
Exactly.
What, did you come back with anything?
Nothing.
I came back with anxiety.
No, I'm sorry. No. As far as, so then he said, I believe that you are suffering from severe PTSD from the loss of your children.
Right.
And that, especially being somebody who grew up in a good family, not in their system, you're totally, confused. And he said, I think that you would benefit from a support group, from people who, have also gone through this or going through this, and that you would also benefit from talking to a female counselor. He said, not that I don't want you as a patient, but, I've been doing this for a long time, and it's just my educated, theory that you would benefit from a female counselor. And there's a lady here in town that I want you to see. She's great. So I'm seeing her, as much as they would allow or whatnot. And after a few times of seeing her, they terminate my services. But I'm still court ordered to see this psychiatrist 2 hours a week, okay, at like $300 an hour. She gave me a discounted rate to $200, and that still was $400 a week. So we're talking $1,600 a month that they wanted me, but terminating my services, I now had to pay for everything else. So I tried, and I survived it for about a month, and then it broke me, which is their goal. And
right.
once it broke me and I couldn't complete my counseling, now they had something. Now I didn't complete part of my case plan. and they just lied. They
Did you
lied and lied and lied and made me out to be somebody that I'm not. People that know me that read those things were like, no, no, this is no, there's no way. They're
Yep.
lying. Like, this is impossible. I had friends that came to me and said, man, I would think I'd lose my kids before you. Like,
Did
I
you
can't
have
believe this.
visits with your kids?
I did. I haven't seen them since June 6, 2015.
What were the visits like?
So at first they were supervised and then they went to unsupervised. And I have videos from every visit I could show you. Wonderful. My kids love their mom. All they want is their mom. Then they tried to say that they had a person come in and watch our visits and see if there was a significant bond between my children and I. And that person reported back and said that there was no significant bond that they would be worried about breaking. I can show you hours and hours and hours and hours of video of how my children, I'm all they knew. My kids didn't go to daycare. They didn't have babysitters. I didn't go out. I didn't do anything. I was with my kids 365. If we went on dates, my kids went with us. I was a stay-at-home mom. I never have done drugs, drink, nothing. My kids were kidnapped and fucking sold. It's like waking up every day and reliving a death.
That's that they're not dead. It's
But
the
they're
worst.
not.
It's the worst.
But it's like waking up every day and hearing the news that someone died.
Right.
I have 2 more kids. When I was getting toward the end of my case with my boys, I could feel it. I could feel it. And I was becoming woke to the corruption and getting in touch with people from the Save Child Coalition and stuff. And I got very scared that my children might not come home. And I knew that if that was the case, I couldn't be a childless mother. I didn't know if I would survive. I really didn't. If I went to court and they told me that my kids weren't coming home, I didn't know if I could survive that. And I knew that the only thing that would save my life is to have another child. So I got pregnant with my daughter while I was still going through my case, and I hid my pregnancy the whole time. In fact, the last time I saw my kids was June 2015. She was born July 4th, 2015, so less than a month later. So I hid my pregnancy all the way up to 8 months, and I'm only 5 foot tall, 130 pounds. So when I'm pregnant, I'm all baby. But I went, to the extremes to do what I had to do to hide my pregnancy. And my boys didn't come home. And I had my daughter in another state because I didn't want them to take her. My heart. And she's 5 now. And then I had another daughter. Not fun because now I was not, all I was worried about was still being a mom. I didn't know what to do with my hands. I didn't know how to identify with myself. I couldn't be a childless mom, and but I wasn't prepared for what life after losing kids to CPS was going to be like with new children, because now I live in a constant state of fear.
Yep.
I am having a hard time allowing my children to be a part of normal things that children are a part of because I am so scared of people. I am just,
Trusting people.
like I said, I live in a constant state of fear, and it's very hard. I'm getting a lot better. I've really dedicated my life this last year to not giving in to the fear, not letting it win, and getting out there and doing the things. And because they didn't ask to be here, and they shouldn't have to suffer. But I can feel that I'm not the same mom that I was to my boys, because I am so scared. I'm just so protective of them, and like obsessive protective, you know.
Yeah.
And they've never met their brothers, and that's very hard. Yeah, they went to Idaho for a few years with my ex's parents, and they kept them for a year. We're gonna get back.
You
But
were cutting out. Hold on, you cut out. You said they went to Iowa, and then that's all I heard.
they went to Idaho.
Oh, Idaho.
Yeah, with my ex's parents, and they were gonna adopt them, had them for a year, and then decided they didn't want them anymore and gave them back. So then they were with my ex's brother and his wife for almost a year. And then they were removed from there, and we were led to believe that they were going to be with my older brother. And then I told you how that went. They bombarded them and told them, oh, well, you're actually not getting the boys, and we're adopting them to these gay men in San Francisco.
And are all three boys no, they're not together, right? Because you said
No,
one's in a group home.
they were court ordered to stay together. And when they removed them from my ex-husband's brother's house, they split them up.
So
And
who are any of them together or no?
yeah, the oldest two.
The babies in the group home?
Yeah, the baby. And that's what makes me so sad, because his brother, he took him when he was 9 weeks old. So his brothers are all he knows. That's all he ever had, because they were in foster care for 2 years, and then went to Idaho for a year, and then with my ex's brother for a year. So for the first 4 or 5 years of his life, he was always with his brothers.
Where I'm in Southern California. Where is he at? Do you know?
I don't. I just heard the guys that adopted my brother, or their brothers, his brothers. The gay men in San Francisco that adopted my 2 older boys informed my dad about 3 weeks ago that the lady who had my baby boy in Chester didn't want him anymore, and she gave him back to the state of California, and that all they knew is that he was at a group home in Southern California. And she's being charged with child abandonment.
Do these two men let you have pictures or see your boys or talk to them, or is it
My dad gets to see them a couple times a year, and he gets to send presents for birthdays and Christmas, and that's it. And I get pictures from my dad, but that's it. Yeah, no, they don't want me to have any contact with them, because they believe the lies, you know. And it's just, I didn't understand the whole thing, you know. And it's true. The healthy kids, the kids who haven't been beaten, molested, neglected, they adapt very well, because their inner rational thinking tells them that everything's going to be all right, because they don't even know bad exists. Children who have gone through, you know, some horrible things, their inner rational.
You're on mute. Hold on, you're on mute.
Cut out.
Their inner what?
when children who have been broken and damaged get placed into a foster home, they typically don't adapt well because
No.
their irrational thinking tells them that shit's going to be bad, excuse my language. Whereas healthy children like mine who have never been exposed to anything horrible like that in life, they don't even know it exists. So their irrational thinking automatically tells them things are going to be okay. What happens now is that these children adapt very well in foster homes and adopted homes. Um, on the other side, people that are willing to spend thousands, hundreds and thousands of dollars to adopt children, they want to buy the healthiest, most beautiful, undamaged child that money can buy. They don't want to buy a child that was born to a drug addicted mother or came from long lines of diseases and illnesses that has a broken soul, mental, physical handicaps. They'll take them, but they're not going to pay for them. And that is really sad, but it's true. So we got a problem now because we got billions of people willing to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, but we don't have any kids. Where are we going to get these kids? Because people don't just give up their babies,
No.
give their kids up. So now we got a problem. And now it's on. Now they're snatching up babies and they're snatching up kids and they're selling them. And that's, my kids didn't get taken and put into a better home. My kids got taken and sold to some gay guys that can't have kids. Yeah, it's like the kids who need to be taken, excuse me, the kids that need it, they stay or
Yeah,
they go back home
it
because
blew me away. You're right. It blew me away when I was in my parenting classes and domestic violence classes. I was the only one who didn't have my kids, and I didn't even need to be in those classes. I've never done drugs. I've never been drunk. I don't do any of that stuff. Never, same thing. I don't have a record. I've only been with one man, and I heard things like, "Oh yeah, I was being chased by a cop, and I jumped out a window with my baby." I'm all, and you have your kids back, like you never had them taken away unless they like served a sentence of some kind from in jail, but then they get their kids right back, and I'm like, I didn't do anything. I have health issues. That's it.
this girl stood up in class and said, I don't understand. My 14-month-old son was running through rush hour traffic in a diaper while I was knotted out on heroin. And I got my son back. Why doesn't this girl have her kids? That doesn't make any sense.
Yes, I had a lot of stories like that too in my classes, and they got their kids back. And yes, I got my kids back, but it took 2 years. And all these women and men had their kids with them the whole time. And they were on drugs, meth, and they kept
Yeah,
relapsing. And I'm
yeah,
like, wait a minute. So you're getting all these chances, but I have to sit in a tiny room with somebody watching me, taking notes, can't take my kids to the bathroom, can't go in
yep.
the stall, can't get close enough to where they think I'm saying something they can't hear. But that person gets sorry, I received a message from my assistant. But that person gets to have their kids.
They, the last thing that they want is for a child to become a ward of the state. Because now instead of making the state money, they are costing the state money. So if they don't think that they're going to end up adopting, I mean, unless you put up one hell of a fight, you know what I mean? Some act of God happens. If they think that they can sell that child for a lot of money, you are not getting it back. So, uh, it's a very, very, very scary thing. It's like, it's rare that they do get their kids on the ones like mine that weren't beaten, molested, neglected, don't have drugs, alcohol, shit like that going on, because it's usually for a reason. So once they get those ones, they'll keep them in the system long enough to make some money on them, But before it can go that far, they'll go back home or they'll go to a family member. You know what I mean? 'Cause they don't want to
Yeah.
get stuck with them.
Yeah.
And so basically, I realize now that what was going on while my kids were toyed around and sent to Idaho with my husband's brother and all this other stuff is they were just looking for the highest bidder. They were yanked and yanked and yanked and yanked, do, until the highest bidder came along. For 4 years, they did this to my boys. My kids who had never even been with a babysitter. I breastfed all of my children. I had all of my children, all natural, no epidural, nothing. And there's, like I said, they have so much power.
Yeah.
It's almost scary to try to, fight them on a real level
It
because
is.
this is a government agency.
There's nobody above them.
No, and it's a multi-billion-dollar agency. Um, I want to say it again. This can happen to anybody. You don't have to be on drugs. You don't have to have domestic violence going on. You don't have to be a criminal. None of it. It could be just as much as not wanting vaccines for your kids.
Right.
Now you're red flagged.
Yep.
It's very scary. And my friends that know me, that's where the awareness came in because they went, holy shit, if Jackie could lose her kids, anybody could lose her kids.
Right.
And I know that. So I try to tell people, and people either think that I'm crazy or they listen to what I'm saying. They know that I'm not, some crazy drug person or something. And they say, oh, wow, okay, this girl's serious. Sounds like she knows what she's talking about. Then they'll go and educate themselves on medical kidnap and come back and go, oh my God, I am so sorry that you went through that. I can't even believe this is happening.
Yeah.
So you're probably familiar with Sean McMillan, the attorney in Riverside.
Sounds familiar, but no.
So he's an attorney out of Riverside. His name is Sean McMillan, and he fights CPS when they violated people's civil rights. And he's the one who, it's a national case about Rosalina Duval, and she was awarded like 3 point something million dollars when CPS wrongfully took her child. And he had that case. I've been in touch with his office for years. I've been in touch with Tammy Stefano, who runs the National Safe Child Coalition and has a radio talk show out of San Francisco. And I've been in touch with all of these people. I have never stopped fighting. And it's to the point where I feel like I'm going to have to wait till my kids come and find me. And I want an Amber Alert. My kids were kidnapped.
Were you given a warrant or anything?
No, nothing.
That's illegal. Like
I
right there.
didn't know though, but I didn't know then because I didn't even know what CPS was.
I know.
So I didn't know. You know what I mean?
I didn't either.
I just was, okay, they're taking my kids and they had a cop there. They had the police there.
Isn't it? And we do it. We hand them over like.
Oh, I didn't hand my son over. I did not hand my son over.
They took him.
Yeah, they physically removed him from my breast. I was not giving them my baby because I was holding him, I was breastfeeding him, and they had already taken the other two. And I was not giving up my baby. There's no way in fuck I was going to hand him my baby. And they physically, forcibly removed him from me, from my breast. devastated my family. My dad, all he cared about was being a grandpa. My dad quit his job and moved across the state to be with his grandkids. This ripped my family apart. Some of my other family won't even talk to me.
I know, my whole family doesn't talk to me. My parents were actually the ones that kidnapped my kids, and then CPS was involved. I didn't even see CPS for the first few days.
Wow. And how long have you had your kids back?
2 years.
Got them back for 2 years. How are they doing?
Not good. It's forever traumatic for them. They suffer, they struggle, they have PTSD, anxiety, depression, all of it. Fear, the fear is outrageous. My son won't leave my side. I was telling the person yesterday that if I leave the room and my son, he's 7 by the way, if he didn't want me to leave and I have to go put something away, his panic, he actually refers to it as a heart attack. I had a heart attack because I couldn't see you. They don't like to go anywhere without me because what if they try to take us away from you like your mom did? My mom made them call her mom. My mom told my son that he came from her body and breastfed on her breast.
What?
Yeah, my mom physically abused my daughter. She came home with bruises, 4 fingerprint bruises on her arm right here.
Oh my God.
Didn't do anything about that. My mom sent me a video of them in the car on the freeway with no car seats, no seat belts, hanging out the car window, speeding, laughing. Sent that to CPS, the social workers and supervisor, and they refused to open it because they didn't want to have to do more paperwork.
Wow. My son, the first visit I got with my kids after they took him, I went to the visiting center and they didn't understand, they thought, oh, okay, good, mom's here, we're going home now. And so we had our 2-hour visit, and then at the end of it, I was carrying them out. I was holding my oldest son, and the foster dad went to take him from me, and he was like, no, he gripped onto me, and I was just holding him, and they physically removed him from my arms. And I will never ever forget my son reaching his arms like this over the guy's shoulder, and the way that he screamed. He let out this mom where he just went, mom, like he didn't understand. They thought like, oh, okay, we went for a visit with somebody for a few days, that was fun and weird, time to go home. And they didn't understand.
No, they don't. And my kids did the same thing every time. I wasn't allowed. My kids made me walk them to the car, which I didn't have a problem with. But then my daughter wouldn't let me leave until they left. And she'd sit in the seat and just sob. And the same thing, I can't tell you how many shirts I have that are stretched out from them pulling and trying to hold onto me somewhere.
Yeah.
And somebody else ripping them off of your body.
And this is fucking legal. Excuse my language, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. It's not supposed to be. It's not technically legal, actually.
Right.
But they do it anyways.
This is what I mean. And they get away with it. Traumatizing kids, but they want a society of conformists.
Yeah.
They don't want free thinkers.
No. Look at this whole pandemic.
No, I know. And every day I think about my little boys. I don't even know what they sound like. I haven't even heard their voices.
I know.
So mean. You know what they wanted for Christmas last year? They made a Christmas list, and they each had one thing on it. And it was to see their mom. And if they can't see their mom, they wanted a picture of their mom.
Did they get one?
Yeah. You know what kills me about this, though? The last visit that I had with my kids, I gave them each a photo album. All three of them. They got their own photo album. And it was full of pictures of me the beginning of their life, while I was pregnant, their birth, and then after they were born, and pictures of me, pictures of their papa, pictures of their uncles, so that they know who their family is. And I gave them all three their own and personalized them. They didn't get them. They didn't let them keep them. It's so mean. It's like how much they complimented me at the visiting center. They would always write their notes, and they were so impressed on how I dealt with three kids at three different ages with such a short time period, and just overall applauded the mother that I was, because they don't see this, you know. And when I brought my kids food, I brought them food every time. This was important to me. I'm Italian, and we will eat together, so I always had a meal with my kids. And I always brought healthy, good stuff. If it wasn't, you know, stuff that I made, I would go and we would have, you know, good, healthy food. And they always would write, you know, that kind of stuff. And it's like, how could I have 2 years of these notes from the visiting center that are all pretty much wonderful?
Right.
They would give me gift cards, and just uh, they would give me like gift cards and thank you cards for always like cleaning up afterwards, and making sure to implement rules with my children, and educate them, you know, how things work at the visiting center while we were there, and just like all sorts of things. And it's like, how many of those cards do you think they give out?
Probably not a
Like
lot.
hardly any. Right. So I'm bringing all of these things with me to the court dates. I also had, um, I was only able to print out like 40 of them, but I had 63 letters written on my behalf from people that knew me
Yep.
prior to having children, during and after having children, and they wouldn't look at them.
Nope.
The judge literally told the attorney to throw them in the trash. Um, my attorney said, you know what? I don't want you to read them. I just want you to recognize the fact that the person that you're describing in this case would not be able to even get one of these letters written about them, let alone over 60. That's all I want you to recognize. So, you know, clearly somebody who's a piece of shit isn't, you know, and does all these things is not going to be able to get that many people. And we're not in people who are legit people, business owners, school teachers, law enforcement, people that I've known all my life, good people, part of the community, however you want to put it. So not just like 63 weirdos from off the street. And they didn't care. They didn't care that I finished all my classes and got all these awards. None of that meant anything. What meant something to them is that my children were worth a lot of money, and that the social worker, I don't know if you know this, but the social worker actually gets a bonus for every child that they have a successful adoption out. Yeah, I can send you that information. But yeah, it's real. And like it's public information. And my oldest boys sold for, I believe it's the exact amount, but it's 160, almost $161,000.
Wow.
So that's what I mean to the highest bidder.
What would you say to people that are watching this?
Do not let them in your house without a warrant. You do not have to talk to them. If they leave you a card on your door that says that you need to call them back, no, you don't. You need to show them that your children are safe. No, you don't. You do not have to do anything with those people. That is an evil entity that is trying to kidnap your children. They are not there to keep your child safe. They are there to get your child in the system, make some money on them while they're there, determine if they are a placeable or adoptable child. At the point that they're determined adoptable, you are not getting that child back. It doesn't matter how much money you spend. And this can happen to anyone. Don't let them in your house, people. Don't let them in your house.
Jackie, I'm really sorry about your story. It makes my heart hurts for you and those boys.
Dude, it's so hard because I think about my pain and how bad it hurts. I can't imagine theirs. I don't even like to think about mine. Fuck my pain. And unfortunately, it's not just my little boys. There's millions of kids out there.
Yep.
I'm just one story.
Right.
My child, my middle son, was molested by a 15-year-old boy for 2 years and then beaten after. My children never hurt in my care, and never would they be.
In the
I have a
innocence.
5-year-old and 3-year-old now. You think they've ever been hurt? Hell no, they haven't. I mean, regular kid stuff, they've never been harmed by anybody. And you know how you know? Because I'm not in jail. Saving my clean record for when somebody messes with one of my kids. Nobody ever harmed my kids with me. Because I protect my babies. They didn't protect my babies. And the fact they're with gay men, God, that's so scary.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Yeah, it's not a good look. And it's embarrassing. People that knew me before, they're, oh, where are your boys? How are your boys doing? What do I say? I don't even know. It's so hard. It's shameful.
I
It's
know.
embarrassing.
I
And
know.
I didn't do anything wrong.
No.
I let them in my house. Yeah, I trusted them when they said, oh, yeah, you work this case plan.
We'll get your kids back.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a lie. That's just standard protocol of what they have to tell you. But they're allowed to lie. They're allowed to say anything they want. If you cry, you're a crazy person. If you don't cry, you don't care.
Right. Right.
There is no winning with them. And this is the other thing that I want to say, that people told me, and I thought, I'm not doing that. Record them.
Yes.
Record every single conversation. Download a call recorder on your app. Every time they call, let them know at the beginning of the call, Pam or Sue or whoever it is, this call is being recorded. Do as much as you can over text message and email so that it's documented, because I didn't do that. And they twist and turned so many things that I said and just lied. They flat out lied. In court documents, they lied and they got away with it. And you never get a chance to defend their lies. They don't have to prove their lies. They can say whatever they want.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's a done deal. It's a wrap. Yeah, reunification's not a thing. I met a lady who worked for CPS in the 90s, and she told me back then it was a good system. It was set in place. They really wanted to help children. And once they started realizing how much money people are willing to pay for kids, she said she started to see the corruptness, and that she's really glad that she got out of it before it turned into what it is today. it hasn't always been like this.
I don't know. I feel like it has.
I feel like it started out, was there for a reason for children that really were being harmed. But then once they realized all the funding and all the money and everything that can be made, it turned into basically a never-ending child supply. And they love newborn babies. Yep, they're snatching up newborn babies like nobody's business. My friend Amanda, she she now has 8 kids. At this time, she only had 7. But when she had her 7th baby, they took him from the hospital. She fell and had him 3 weeks early. Her doctor had prescribed her hydrocodone. And she got into a car accident. She got into a car accident. She was having, a lot of pain. The doctor prescribed her hydrocodone. She's on the hydrocodone. She was out in the parking lot. It had been raining of her apartment and slipped and fell getting into the trunk of her car and had her baby 3 weeks early. The baby was born with the hydrocodone in her system, again prescribed by a doctor, and they took the baby. She went home and she told her father of her children, it was like 2:30 in the morning, we got to get these kids out of the house. And he said, no, you're tripping. And she said, no, Ray, you got to help me. She said, I know from watching my friend Jackie go through this, and if it could happen to her, it could happen to anybody. They've already taken the baby. We need to get the kids out. He wouldn't help her. She had 6 kids. She didn't have a car big enough. She took 2 loads of her kids to her dad's house in the middle of the night. They showed up at 9:30 the next morning. And she called me and said, I am so glad that you took the time to talk to me, to educate me, because when this happened, all I thought of was you, and I knew that the next move was I had to keep my other kids safe.
Right.
And because of you, I was able to do that, and they never got their hands on the other kids.
Wow, I have like goosebumps from that. That's amazing.
Because she knew.
Right.
She knew if it could happen to me, it can happen to anybody. And they just took her one baby. She knew the next thing is they were coming for the rest.
Right.
So there's a TV show that's going to be coming out or something.
Yes, hopefully. So I thank you again for sharing your story.
Thank you.
I'm really sorry. It was really
for allowing me to.
It was great talking to you.
Me too. I appreciate it.